Good morning, everyone. I can see people starting to come through. Great to have you with us this morning. We'll just give a few moments for everyone to come in and then I'll get started. So apologies, we're a couple of minutes late starting today. We were just waiting on final speakers and PowerPoints all to be set up ready. So delighted that we're able to, I guess, bring this session again. So this is actually the second time Alex has joined us from the WISE group to look at the employment sessions. And I think at that point, the Young Person Guarantee Scheme hadn't launched. So we felt there was a real benefit in rerunning the Kickstart programme. And we didn't have much chance for the pre-chat with all of our panellists, but I was also picking up on the news this week that I think there've been a few changes to the Kickstart programme in the last week. So it's a timely session, hopefully for us all today, to kind of learn what some of the updates are, hear how it's going, and hear about the Youth Guarantee Scheme, which when we ran this, I think it was back in October, hadn't launched. So hopefully you'll get something out. Usual format, so we're going to have our speakers up one at a time. So we're going to be hearing first from Victoria about the Young Person Guarantee Scheme. So Victoria's joined us from Scottish Government talking about that. Then we're going to hand over to Maureen, who's joining us to talk about the Kickstart programme. And then we're going to bring Alex in from the WISE group. So any Q&A, feel free to post them as we go through or use the chat function. And I'll come to Q&A at the end and we'll bring all of our panellists back on. So I'm just going to introduce Victoria, and if you want me to bring up your PowerPoint straight away.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Apologies for the noise in the background. Typical Scottish Water must have known that I was presenting today and decided to dig up right outside my house. So I'm perched in a room as far away as possible as I can from the digger. So apologies, but bear with me.
We can't hear anything at the moment. So brilliant. Thank you very much.
Slide one. Can everybody see the first? I don't think so.
Not just yet, Victoria.
It's loading, sorry.
It's coming.
Just in case it was me. Oh, there we are. Great. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me along today. As Naomi was saying, the Young Person's Guarantee only launched in October, so it's relatively new as a policy, but the principles of the Young Person's Guarantee and the foundations that we're building upon have been there for quite some time. So next slide, please. So introduction, I'm Victoria Beattie and I work in the new Young Person's Guarantee that was established in September. The reason for the Young Person's Guarantee will probably come as no surprise to those of you that are joining us here today. The economic situation speaks for itself, and that young people have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 and the effects it's having on the labour market. There's been a significant amount of research done on this by the likes of the Resolution Foundation, who have looked at the types of sectors and the age groups of people that have been affected by COVID-19. And the stats show that there's been a disproportionate impact on young people. Next slide, please. So how did we get to where we are? At the start of COVID, the Scottish Government established the Advisory Group in Economic Recovery, and one of their main recommendations was that the Scottish Government should look to establish a Young Person's Guarantee. It was looking at previous iterations of guarantees, such as the Edinburgh and the Glasgow Guarantee. Sandy Begbie has been asked to come in as an independent advisor on the setting up of the guarantee. Sandy has previous experience with the Edinburgh Guarantee, and he published his initial report, and the Scottish Government then are taking forward the recommendations of that report. So Sandy had extensive engagement with delivery partners and with a great number of stakeholders when he was developing his initial recommendations. And he was also keen to ensure that there was political buy-in across all the parties, bearing in mind that we're in the run-up to an election, but also it's really important that we have cross-party support in the recommendations that we're taking forward to support young people in their journey towards the labour market. Next slide, please. So what is the Young Person's Guarantee? It is a pledge that the Scottish Government will guarantee to every young person aged between 16 and 24 the opportunity, based on their own personal circumstances and ambitions, of going to university, college and apprenticeship, training, fair employment, and that could include work experience, or participating in a formal volunteering. And as I said before, this isn't necessarily new. It's building on the foundations and signposting to existing programmes. DYW has had a world-class reputation in bringing young people closer to the labour market, our colleges and our universities, but also building on the no one left, oh, sorry, can you just go back a sec? The no one left behind principles that we have. The Young Person's Guarantee, some of you may remember Opportunities for All, which was very similar to a guarantee, but it was for 16 to 19-year-olds. But what the Young Person's Guarantee does, it is building and expanding upon that and increasing the age range in line with the data that we're getting from the labour market. It's very much aligned to our work on greener, fairer and sustainable jobs and our future skills action plan. It's also not just the Scottish Government, it's what's happening within local government, and indeed colleagues that will be presenting next, UK government investment. So Kickstart is part of the Young Person's Guarantee, along with the youth hubs that are being established. So initially, on top of the existing programmes that are taking place, the Scottish Government is providing an additional £60 million of funding has been allocated. And this has been broken down to £30 million for local partnerships, £10 million for the DYW networks, £10 million for pre-apprenticeship work, and £10 million for colleges. Next slide, please. So where are we now? We've had to do a significant amount of work from when the Young Person's Guarantee was launched. So we have been taking forward a lot of consultation with young people. We want young people to be at the heart, to help shape and design the guarantee and to be part of the governance structures. So we initially started off with consultation work with Young Scot and intercultural youth and other panels that are already existing that young people are involved in to get their views. And 2 reports, initial reports, were published, and we provided links to those. We've established an implementation group who are managing the activities and providing advice and guidance to ministers. The membership of the implementation group includes private, public sector agencies and third sector organisations too. And we have published, and Sandy Begbie chairs that group. And the group have published a high-level activity plan that talks through the activities that we're going to be taking forward as part of the implementation of the guarantee. Equalities and inclusion, both ministers and Sandy are very keen that it is the spine of the guarantee. It's about helping all young people, and we'll be shortly publishing the equalities impact assessment and the equalities action plan that will sit along the activity plan. The guarantee has its own website that is part of the Skills Development Scotland, My World of Work, and that website is for both young people, for delivery partners and for employers. We've developed an employer asked and named some early adopters, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. We've provided the funding now to the 32 local partnerships, and that's been given out as a grant to the local authorities, but it is for partnership working. We've provided additional funding to boost existing employability programmes such as Our Futures Now and Discover Your Potential. And we have also provided additional funding for volunteering, and the funding now is going out for school coordinators as part of DYW. Next slide, please. So ongoing work, we are implementing the activities that are in the activity plan, and we're putting some effort into the job creation side of the guarantee, because we need to stimulate demand so that there's opportunities for young people to go to. And one of those main pieces of work is going to be developing an all-age employer recruitment incentive framework, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. We've reinstated the work that we're taking forward on careers. Sandy's report was very specific on the need to drive careers advice and guidance, not just in schools, but across the wider employability landscape. We're developing the governance structures for the guarantee. And in light of the labour market situation and uptake of apprenticeships, we have now launched a £15 million apprenticeship recruitment incentive. And I think it's important with all programmes that we have a detailed measurement and evaluation framework about how we're going to assess and report on the impact, and we're currently developing that at the moment. And Leah, we've got in some secondees from Chambers of Commerce to help us on the employer engagement work that we're taking forward. Next slide, please. So just a bit more on apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are very much at the heart of our skills system and an important part of the guarantee. But while apprenticeships have normally been rising steadily, the impact of COVID has been significant. So there's a number of measures that the government are taking forward to try and help and encourage employers to take on apprentices. And we've got the new apprenticeship grant, and there's some information on those slides with links to where you can go to for more information. Next slide, please. So local partnerships, as part of No One Left Behind, the guarantee is an important part of No One Left Behind. So while No One Left Behind's all age, the guarantee is focused on young people, but very much the principles and the direction of travel, the guarantee is part of No One Left Behind. So we're working in partnership with local government and local partners to support young people. The Young Person's Guarantee is very much a person-centred, place-based approach, and local partners are best placed to look at what the needs of their local young people are and how local employers can come together and help support young people. We fit in with existing No One Left Behind and the Parental Employment Support Fund. And again, a large proportion of this money will be used to support employer recruitment incentives. But the other things that this funding will support are priorities around Kickstart, for example. So if a young person is needing more support through their Kickstart placement, there's funding there to provide that additional wraparound, as well as providing the traditional employability support, skills and training support, and very much at the moment about mental health support for our young people. You won't be surprised to see on the slide fair work, the importance of fair work. We're wanting jobs to be meaningful, sustainable, and be underpinned by a package of training and support to support young people in that transition to permanent employment and to tackle issues around in-work poverty. Next slide, please. So the 5 asks of employers, the 5 asks are that we are asking employers to do is to think about how they can contribute to supporting young people. So it's supporting young people and preparing them for the world of work. So that's building on the developing young workforce, regional groups, thinking about what work experience opportunities, volunteering and foundation apprenticeships. It's really thinking about targeting our support to those who need the most amount of help. During the good times, we still had issues around occupational segregation that led to the gender pay gap. We still had disability employment gap, and we had issues with the race employment gap too. So it's really thinking about how we can support those that are furthest from the labour market and tackling some of the labour market inequalities that exist. It's about investing in a skilled workforce, and the Scottish Government is providing money to support employers to develop their workforces. It's about creating opportunities and jobs for young people, and that can be a variety of different opportunities through paid internships, work experience, apprenticeships and jobs. And it's about creating inclusive workplace environments. It's not just enough thinking about your recruitment practices, about how you get diverse groups of people to join your organisations, but how you can support them within that organisation to tackle things such as structural racism. Next slide, please. So funding for employers. We are providing funding to create jobs with our partners in the UK government and with local government. So there's a range of opportunities through Kickstart, employer recruitment incentives, and Community Jobs Scotland are an important part of the guarantee too. It's about investing in a workforce, and we have the apprenticeship recruitment grant and funding through these other programmes, as well as regional offers. Next slide, please. So thinking about the role of social enterprises in the guarantee, it's really keen that we want the guarantee to think about how we harness the ethos about providing ethical and sustainable ways of doing business. And we really think social enterprises are an important part of that, and we would like the guarantee to be part of that work that you're taking forward. We'd really like you to consider your involvement in the DYW groups and the involvement in the 5 asks, and to consider how you could approach local authorities to discuss your involvement in the Young Persons Guarantee, whether that's through an ERI or through Kickstart, and that might be through other gateway organisations too. It's not just local authorities who are gateway organisations, there are others in your local communities too. And I've provided Leona's email address there. Leona, as I said, is on secondment from the Chambers of Commerce into Scottish Government, and she's really leading on this work with employers. So that's her contact details there. Next slide, please. And I'd just like to finish off today with a little bit of information about the draft employer recruitment incentive framework that we're currently consulting on. So the purpose of the framework is to provide minimum standards of what public funded ERIs could look like across Scotland to provide consistency, but still allowing that flexibility of approach to support the needs of the young person, the needs of the employer and the local circumstances. Purpose of an ERI is to stimulate demand in the labour market, and it's very much linked in with our principles around fairer and greener, and it's really targeted at supporting those that have the greatest barriers to employment or sustaining employment. Now, ERIs can be used in a variety of ways. Sometimes they're used to provide wages, sometimes they're used for specialist in-work support. And what we're proposing through the framework is we're saying no single use is, we're not prescribing that. It needs to be a discussion at a local level as to what the best use of the ERI is. Normally, ERIs have previously just been targeted on SMEs and third sectors, including social enterprises. But given the way the labour market is at the moment, we're thinking that for the next year, and this is something that we can continue to review, that we open it up to all sectors and all size of employers, but that due consideration must be given by local partnerships to SMEs and social enterprises, and we will be monitoring. The reason for extending it to private and public sector is we're aware that COVID has impacted different geographies, and in some areas the public sector may be the main employer, and we really do want to encourage young people into employment, but as I said, it's something that we'll continue to review. We're wanting to make sure that fair work is embedded across ERIs, and we're also looking at how much an ERI is, what is the payment structure. So we're saying that local partnerships should have the flexibility to decide the level and duration based on the needs of the young person. So normally we would be saying, you know, there's a minimum hours, there's for a particular length of time, but we need to take into account that some people, depending on their health condition or disability, may need a bit more flexibility and not having it too rigid. However, we're suggesting, and this is what we're consulting on, is a minimum costing would be 50% of the national minimum wage, with a view to paying £500 supplement to the employer if they're paying the participant the real living wage by the end of it, or at a unit cost, for example, £6,000 if the young person is being paid a real wage, if they're not being paid the real living wage at a unit cost of £4,000. Next slide, please. This will be the last slide, you'll be pleased to hear. So employment, we're really keen that employer recruitment incentives are enforcing fair work. So we're saying that they have to have a written contract of employment and looking at issues around precarious or inappropriate flexible contracts. Thinking about the minimum hours, but as I said before, allowing there to be local discretion. We're really keen that there's quarterly reviews in place for employer recruitment incentives so that we can look at the quality of experience both for the participant and for the employer. And for some of those larger employers that we're saying that for the short term that they will be able to apply for support a young person through an ERI, we're putting in some fair work commitments around publishing their gender pay gap and taking action plans, looking at their race pay gaps and payment of the living wage. But what we're saying is employers cannot use the ERI to create a job that has maybe somebody has been made redundant and it's to cover that, or it's to cover sickness or maternity cover. And that's me. Thank you very much for listening and happy to take questions later on.
Thank you very much, Victoria. That was really comprehensive and good to have the contacts in there as well for people and the links. So I think I put up on the chat that we would happily share those slides if that's all right with our presenters to people that had signed up. And
I'm happy for you to give my email address. Sorry, I should have put that on the presentation, but happy.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I will definitely get onto that. I will try not to be in the chat function while I'm going through the next PowerPoint slides because I was trying to respond to things, which is when your slides occasionally went awry. So I won't do that on the next lot. I stopped trying to do that in the end. So I'm delighted to now bring in Maureen, who's going to talk us through in a bit more detail about the Kickstart programme. And I think, as I said at the start of the session, there's been a few changes even this week. So I'm hopeful we'll get the kind of latest update through for you. So thank you, Maureen. I will just turn off my video and bring up your slides.
Thank you. So hello everybody, my name's Maureen McGibbon and I joined the Kickstart Scotland team just on Monday this week. I was previously working as the Senior Employer and Partnership Manager within Edinburgh. Now, just while we're waiting on the slides coming up, there is a video on the second slide, Naomi, so I don't know if we'll be able to access that. I think that's just coming up now. What you might get, you might have to put it into full view to get it.
Great, I'm going to do that and then I will hopefully get your video started.
Brill, thank you.
Give me the thumbs up if the sound comes through, because sometimes you needed to have changed the settings to get the sound. So
there are subtitles on it too, yeah.
Perfect, in which case I'll just crack on. So thanks, Maureen. Oh. Let's cross our fingers, we're all good.
We could hear it there, but we can't see it.
The Chancellor announced the Kickstart scheme as part of the Plan for Jobs, a new programme.
Not sure what's happening, Naomi. Have you got another window that's got the video in it on YouTube, or? Because I heard it a wee second ago.
Apologies, it's showing on my screen. Give me a second.
Thank you. Oh, we can
Is that
see it
working?
now. Yeah, we can see it now. Are you able to pop it back to the beginning?
Let me just pop it back to the beginning. Apologies, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll click play from here, Maureen. I think we should be.
Yeah, thank you.
Jobs.
I think that's it finished now. You pop back to the presentation, Naomi. That'd be great. Thank you. Grand. That's great. Can everybody see that? Okay, yeah. Okay. So as in the video, as the video said there, obviously the Kickstart scheme has started now, and we have had vacancies on our system already with more of our larger national accounts. People like Tesco, we've seen our first NHS Lothian area come on as well. So the point of the scheme is to improve employability and the chances of sustained employment for those at risk of long-term employment within that age group. It provides a grant funding to employers and gateway organisations for 6 months during the placement, and it supports the creation of new jobs that wouldn't otherwise exist. Claimants can be referred to a Kickstart scheme job up to the 31st of December. So public, private and voluntary sector organisations across the country can create placements, and the UK government will cover the cost of that. Private sector involvement is to source high quality meaningful jobs. They must be new, there must be additional jobs, not jobs that the employer was about to advertise or where anybody has been made redundant. So employers with 30 or more vacancies can bid in their own right, but that changes from next Wednesday. Gateway organisations can bring together employers to make a bid. So they would act as the organisation body, an umbrella organisation, but the link for gateway organisations to apply will close from midnight tonight. Which means that from the 3rd of February, that employers with less than 30 vacancies can actually make an application to be an employer in their own right. Now, the gateway organisation is paid £1,860 on start, and the £1,500 goes to the employer to provide training and wraparound and support. So the gateway organisation, it's a £300 payment that they get, and there's £60 VAT included within that. Wage payments are paid directly to the gateway organisation, who then in turn pays the employer. Could you pop it on the next slide, please? So the job placements that are created within Kickstart, like I said, they must be new jobs. They can't replace existing or planned vacancies. They can't be used to bring people in whilst you've got people on furlough, and they can't cause any existing employees or contractors to lose their jobs or reduce their employment. So it has to be a minimum of 25 hours per week for 6 months. The government pay at least the national minimum wage for their age group, and they should not require people to undertake extensive training before they begin the job placement. What we have seen with some organisations is that they are offering 25-hour-a-week roles, some are offering 30 hours a week, and some are offering 37 and a half hours a week. So one of those, for example, within the Edinburgh area is NHS Lothian. They've got 97 positions that were waiting to come onto our system. They're offering 25, 30 and 37 and a half hours a week, and the full-time wage is 18,600, which for a young person is a really great starting wage. And because they are being asked to work weekends, they get paid extra to work weekends. So Saturday I think is 1.4 and a Sunday is 1.8. So some really good opportunities coming our way. All bids should now include how you will help the participant to develop their skills and experience, and this is all part of the application process, the support that's going to be provided by each individual employer. So that support could be to look for long-term work, support with a CV and interview preparation, and training to develop their skills such as teamwork, organisation and communications as part of the role. And that's basically what that £1,500 grant is that's paid to each employer. Okay, can we pop it on to the next one? So the changes that we have ahead are from 3rd of February, employers can apply directly to the Kickstart scheme for any number of job placements. The threshold of 30 job placements is being removed. At the moment, an employer can also choose to apply through a Kickstart gateway. So anyone who is already approved as a Kickstart gateway can still attract new employers to them that do have less than 30 jobs, but the employer still has the opportunity to apply directly. The only difference that we'll see there is that if an employer applies directly, they'll get the wages paid directly to them, whereas if they choose to apply through a gateway organisation, the wages are paid to the gateway organisation, and obviously that gateway organisation also gets that £300 paid to them too. So Kickstart Gateways, already working with the scheme, can continue to add more employers and job placements to their grant agreements, and we're seeing that happen at the moment. So if they've already been approved and their grant agreement has been approved, they can continue to put further requests for grant agreements in with new employers. So we have over 600 gateways. But from the 28th of January, like I said, we're closing applications from new Kickstart gateways. And the next slide. So for employers, what that means is that they will create a new 6-month job placement for young people who are currently on universal credit and at risk of long-term unemployment. So within each job centre office, we have youth work coaches, we have youth employment coaches, we have youth hub work coaches as well. So they are dealing specifically with the 18 to 24 age group. So they're working really closely with that age group, making sure that they are ready to apply for these jobs. And if they don't, we obviously have other schemes that have been introduced recently, like job finding support and job entry targeted support, that we can refer them to bring them up to the standard that they need to be to apply for these vacancies. Some of the vacancies, it's just a CV they need to apply, other ones it's a full application process. So funding for each job placement will cover 100% of the national minimum wage for 25 hours per week, all associated national insurance contributions and employer minimum automatic enrolment contributions are paid as well. And that fund is also available to support the young people to develop new skills and to help them move into sustained employment. And we have heard stories of employers using it, for equipment that's needed for those individuals. So job opportunities are advertised on the Universal Credit portal. So the work coaches can access them daily. what we've seen already since the scheme was introduced and the vacancies started to get advertised, that all of the vacancies we've seen so far have been from employers who have applied directly. So the employers, probably large scale employers who have excuse me, more than 30 vacancies. So that could be your Tesco's, your Superdrugs, your Savers, Peter Vardy, those sort of employers. They're already advertised on our portal. We are now starting to see some of the employers that have gone through gateway organisations see their vacancies advertised on the portal. And because our national team have been working flat out to get these vacancies on, within Scotland, we're probably seeing about 100 new vacancies per day across Scotland being added to the Universal Credit Portal. Now, on that portal, the DWP work coaches can refer the customers to the job opportunities. The employer will get a notification that someone has been referred to their opportunity, and then what happens then is the customer is given details on how they can apply. Now, what we've recognised is that we did have some quite a large percentage of customers who were perhaps not applying to the vacancy. So within Scotland, we've introduced a new team that will follow this up with the customer at day 2, day 4 and day 6 after they have been referred to it. And that basically is just to see how they're getting on, if they're needing any extra support to apply for it. And it's not to replace the work that the work coach is doing, because what they will do is they'll go back to the work coaches and say, just to let you know, I spoke to your customer today, he's not applied for that vacancy yet, he's not really sure his CV's up to scratch, could you have a chat with him about it? So all the follow-up actions that are required following those phone calls will be referred back to each individual work coach. And can you pop on to the next slide, please? Oh, I think that's us actually at the end then. So just to recap, we have, like, to speak about what we've got at the moment and what we've got upcoming. NHS Lothian were the first NHS authority, local authority, to come within Lothian to us, and like I said, they did have 97 positions. We are working really closely with NHS Lothian to time it for their vacancies coming onto our system, so that we can offer a sector-based work academy programme for anyone who is interested in applying for the vacancies. Now, if you've not heard about sector-based work academy programmes or swaps before, this is no longer than a 6-week programme that includes 3 elements of pre-employment training, a work experience placement and a guaranteed job interview, or where it's fair and open recruitment, full support through the employer application process. So NHS Lothian are working really closely with us. Through that, they have contributed towards the content of the pre-employment training and given us examples of what good looks like, so that we can fully support anyone who's coming on those sector-based work academies in the next few weeks, so that we can get them through the first step of the application process and get a successful sift to interview for that as well. We are also offering that service across Scotland in a more generic way as well, but that one, that's the first one where we've worked with an employer who has that amount of positions, and we've tailored the training to meet the needs of the employer for that particular programme. Within each district in Scotland, we also have Kickstart District Account Managers, or KDAMs. They work with a team of Kickstart employer advisors, and for every new employer that comes on, those employer advisors will account manage those employers. So we'll be giving them a call just to see how you're getting on recruiting with your Kickstart vacancies. Is there any support that we can help you with? Because like I said, with the high percentage of people not applying for those vacancies, they might get notification that 18 people have been referred, but perhaps only 3 have applied. So we're working really closely account managing those employers at the moment as well. So that's me finished for the moment, so I'm happy to take questions at the end as well.
Thank you, Maureen. Again, obviously there's lots of detail in terms of applying to these programmes, which I guess is why the PowerPoints are going to be really useful to people, and I think why our first few presentations have been a bit longer, because there is just so much detail, I think, to know to get this right. I'm delighted next to bring in Alex. Many years experience, I guess, the WISE group have had in terms of helping young people and I guess beyond young people with employability. And I know you're a registered gateway, so I think it's great to have you join us here today, Alex, because I think you'll give us the sense of some of these programs around employability from that kind of perspective of the gateway. So I'll hand over to you and we'll come back to some questions at the end as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for having me today at the session to talk about our experiences at the WISE group around employability. Obviously, it's been hugely insightful to hear about what's going on, hearing from Victoria about the Young Person's Guarantee, and obviously we are involved in Kickstart as well. So there's lots of, it just shows you the volume of things that are going on. And hopefully by the time I finish rambling, there's a bit more coherence around some of the things that are going on, particularly in Scotland, because certainly that's one of the challenges that we have is there's lots and lots of good stuff. There's lots of new stuff going on that is a positive step. It's about understanding it and trying to link it all together. So Duncan, Naomi and the team have asked me to talk about our experiences of doing, as the WISE group in the context of today's session, employment support and job creation. Those of you that know us will know that we deliver a wide range of support to vulnerable customers to lift them out of poverty. And within a normal year, we'll engage with around 30,000 individuals across all of our programs. This ranges from supporting people into through employability, our mentoring services to reduce reoffending across the justice system, our skills and training delivery to build on people's skills and confidence, and also our large-scale work to eradicate fuel poverty. So we've got specific experience and wide-ranging experience around supporting employability and helping people back to work. And this is focused on helping people break down barriers, build up their confidence and skills and move into the world of work. And we've been doing this since the WISE group started back in 1983. So we've got wide-ranging experience of delivering employment support, devising and developing programs to tackle unemployment, supporting people back towards a sustainable future. We do this at various scales, from design and delivery of local programs all the way up to the delivery of large-scale national programs for the likes of the DWP and the Scottish Government. And all of this is with the aim of supporting people back into work. So, like most, we've seen changes in the employment support sector. Pre-COVID, we were seeing an ever decreasing focus on employability programs and support as the UK experienced record high employment levels. Underemployment and in-work poverty were much more of a growing focus at that time. But now, as a direct consequence of COVID, we're seeing the severe impact on the economy and jobs. Employability support is back to being front and centre as a key tool in the recovery, as well as ensuring that the millions of people who are suffering further from the impacts of COVID, on their livelihoods and jobs, get the support that they so desperately need. So, as you've heard today, the government is responding. The Young Person's Guarantee that Victoria talked about, Kickstart, really useful information there from Maureen, and a wide range of other programmes being launched or developed to focus squarely on supporting people back into work, some of which I want to talk about briefly today. So in Scotland, we have Kickstart Scotland, which the WISE group supports the delivery on. We deliver that for the Scottish Government in the west of Scotland. And this provides intensive support for those further from the labour market. It's intensive 12-month programme of support with the aim of securing sustainable employment for the people we're helping. The impact of COVID has seen an increase in the customer numbers across Kickstart more generally, and I'm sure across most other support programmes and services. So as a sector, we've got to respond to these changing needs to ensure that we can do the best that we can. So I want to focus on a few of some of the new programmes that have been developed and procured in recent months. And Maureen made a quick reference to a few of them there. The first one to talk about is job finding support. This is a programme that goes live in the coming days, and it's a light touch programme of support for those who've been out of work and on universal credit for less than 13 weeks. And it'll be delivered across the UK. And the focus is, as I said before, light touch, supporting people who will be able to progress into a new job, benefiting from a light touch regime of support, delivered remotely. And it will help, it's targeting at that a large number of people who have found themselves unemployed as a result of COVID. As well as this, we saw JET's job entry targeted support launched in the autumn in England and Wales. And this was procured in Scotland over Christmas. And we're delighted, the WISE Group is delighted to be one of the key delivery partners for this programme in Scotland, which was launched on Monday this week. It went live on Monday this week. And the program's aimed at those who have been unemployed or on universal credit for more than 13 weeks. And I'm sure you'll be aware that this is an ever increasing number of people. We'll be part of a large team across Scotland supporting tens of thousands of people on this programme over the next year. Access to JETS, like many of the other programmes, and employment support services, including job finding support and Kickstart, is directly through the Job Centre Plus network via referrals from job coaches. And this year alone, the WISE Group expects to help nearly 10,000 people on the JETS programme across 12 months. And but it's not just employability support that defines these programmes, it is job creation and retention. So for Scotland and the UK to be successful here, we need action from all sectors to support these programmes, to create roles and opportunities for people to move into and to thrive in. And we are and will continue to work closely with employers and agencies from all sectors to support customers to secure employment. So considering the focus of today's session being on job creation, and I wanted to also talk about Kickstart, and I suppose to follow on from Maureen there, but more from the perspective of being a Kickstart gateway. So the WISE Group's been involved in Kickstart since its inception in sort of late September. We saw this as an opportunity, first and foremost, to play our part in supporting thousands of young people who need that chance. We know that our expertise and our experience of employability support, particularly helping young people, but also working on these kind of programs over many decades, that we had a lot of value to bring to this in terms of having a big impact. So we've been through the process. We are an approved gateway, and we are now at the point where I think we've got well over 200 roles through 30 or 40 employers within the system, and we're delighted with the progress that's been made, and we've been working directly with the DWP regionally, nationally, on developing the programme and getting over the line with this. So really great to see the progress coming on. Why did we get involved? Because we saw that as an opportunity to help people and to use our experience. Why should employers get involved? So I thought this would be an interesting one to quickly cover. It's not just about providing that crucial support and the opportunity for young people, which is, it's a key element of this, but it's also about your organisation as an employer. You can support your organisation to grow back and build and grow capacity, as well as having that positive impact on the young person. We realised that lots of businesses can't make and won't make investments at the moment, recruitment decisions, investment decisions, because of that ongoing uncertainty around different parts of the economy. But Kickstart allows employers to have the opportunity to bring in new talent, new capacity, and provide an opportunity to young people, but without that risk, that financial risk. Effectively, we always saw it as a win-win, and we're encouraging employers to look at this to see if it fits for them. And we know that one of the potential barriers to employers being involved in Kickstart is that requirement that Maureen talked about in detail there around wraparound employability support. That's a core element of Kickstart, that not only does that person get a good quality job for 6 months that they can work and build their experience and confidence in, but they come out of it stronger, more employable, that there is a solid offer of employability support wrapped around that young person during their journey. So we know that lots of employers, that's not effectively core to what they do, and that would be a challenge to show, to prove, and to actually deliver that as part of Kickstart. So along with other gateways like us, we want to provide that offer and use our nearly 40 years of experience of delivering employability support, so we can offer this support to the young people so that employers can focus on what they're good at. We've developed a wide-ranging, flexible and adaptable programme of support that can be accessed by young people on Kickstart and delivered in a way that doesn't disrupt or distract from their role or from what the employer needs them to do. So we're urging employers to look at Kickstart and see if it's an opportunity that they can benefit from, and how you can get added value and extra support from working with gateways, like us. But obviously there's 600 odd gateways out there. We just want people to be involved and create a genuinely positive opportunity for young people. So conscious of time, and I'll try and wrap up, but we ultimately welcome the wide-ranging support and investment from national, local government, and that increased employment support. However, as I stated before, it takes more than this. We need action. We need action from employers, from agencies, from stakeholders and influencers across all sectors to create opportunities for people. There'll be massive shifts and adaptations in sectors as a result of COVID, but we know that within this, there'll be great opportunities to get a chance for employment. So there's lots going on here at the Wise Group. We'd love to talk more about how we can partner and collaborate on this, as well as all the other opportunities we provide to lift people out of poverty. But before I sign off, I just want, I want to sign off with an important message, and it's one that I've reiterated before through other sessions that I've had the chance to speak at, but I've had through many conversations in the last sort of 9 months or so. And this is that we have a watch out. We've got to watch out on all of this support and activity. And that is the cost of those being the further marginalisation of the people we've been focused on helping before COVID hit. Those furthest removed from the labour market, those groups at risk of being squeezed out even further by the sheer numbers of people who will access the new support, who will gain re-employment and access to reskilling and retraining opportunities. So our big question, the question we've been continually asking, we ask the policymakers and decision makers, is to ensure how we ensure that those who were being left behind don't end up being further left behind by what's going on at the moment. The imperative is on finding a twin track, economic and social recovery, and more broadly, as the civic challenges of COVID heighten, displacement has got to be our key watch out. So we mustn't forget about those people who were already struggling before the pandemic. I'll wrap it up there, and look forward to questions as they come in. But thanks for your time, and look forward to chatting in a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. A powerful message, I think, to finish that presentation. And I know when we were doing initial responses from Social Enterprise Scotland about COVID and recovery, we're pointing out that we need to really address the gaps and inequalities that seem to exist in our society, seem to be increasing. And I think, it's great hearing about all these opportunities that are developing for young people to access. But like you say, do we need to watch out that we still make sure that those furthest removed from the jobs market and opportunities do get equal access? And I know, or I sense certainly everyone that's setting up these schemes and involved is desperate to make sure that they do, of course. But in practice, that can be much harder in terms of engagement. And I'm perhaps going to start with one question to you, and I'll ask Maureen and Victoria if they're able to turn their cameras and join us again if there's a couple of questions. We've got a few minutes. But I guess the one I was just going to pick up and start on first, I'm really pleased, I guess, to hear that organisations can now apply that don't need to be looking for 30 jobs at a time. I think particularly for the social enterprise sector, a lot of our organisations don't have 30 staff in the first place. So there is always a challenge for them kind of coming in. But obviously you talked, I think, Maureen, you mentioned kind of obviously needing to provide employment support still there. I know, Alex, we had a brief conversation before we started about how actually critical the support is, not just the job. And I wonder if there's any kind of just top tips in terms of that employment support, making sure that people don't underestimate that, I guess, if they're coming in terms of being a small employer. So Maureen, perhaps a comment, and then Alex,
definitely.
I think so.
So for the support that they're providing, this all has to be supplied when the application is made. And we have seen some applications where we've had to go back to them and say, can you just clarify, be more specific with what you're providing? And it's all dependent on the job role. For the NHS roles, they're working really closely with different organisations to get accreditations for the people that are going to be on these placements. And even for them, they've said that, like you touched on, Alex, that this will stand them in really good stead when they're applying for other vacancies. And, an application from them for a permanent vacancy when they've already completed a Kickstart placement with that organisation, is going to enhance their prospects of being successful there as well. But it basically comes down to each individual employer and organisation, and sometimes the gateways are organising that directly with the individual employers too. So it varies depending on the job role, so it could be for a construction vacancy, it could be someone getting their CSCS accreditation, it just all depends, but they have to be quite specific when they're applying to be a Kickstart employer with what they are going to provide. And a lot of that might be employability support, and some of them are using the Open University portal with the free online training that's available there as well.
No, thank you, Maureen. I think, you know, it really is understanding what that support is. Victoria, and then Alex.
Yep, just to add on to that, that's why I was trying to encourage that if social enterprises aren't applying through a gateway organisation, to get in touch with the local authorities to maybe discuss what wraparound care could support that Kickstart opportunity. And the other thing to mention is the ERIs, we want them to align with Kickstart and with Community Job Scotland. So a young person would be eligible for an ERI once they've completed their Kickstart and maybe stay with the same organisation. So if they are needing a bit longer, you know, longer duration of support, then the ERI can then kick in. So I would hope that would particularly help with social enterprises as well, to extend that duration, as well as, you know, ultimately providing a sustainable job at the end.
Thank you, Victoria. Alex?
Yeah, I think, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with what Victoria and Maureen have said there, but it's, and as Maureen mentioned, it varies from role to role. But fundamentally, you know, we see this as the key, you know, the employer side of things in terms of being able to bring in young people and effectively have those wages paid and give them that opportunity. That's the bit that's a no-brainer, I think. One of the bits where I think employers will stop and think is, how do I deliver, you know, well, firstly, it's important that they understand the significance of that side of Kickstart, you know, before engaging in it. But then how do they provide that? How do they satisfy the need for that wraparound support to the young person through not only their application, but the actual delivery of the Kickstart role itself across the 6 months? So obviously there's a number of ways that the employers can do that, through linking in through new support, like, you know, the Young Person's Guarantee and the ERIs. But fundamentally, I suppose one of my pitches, and, you know, you'd expect me to do this because, you know, we're offering it, but you know, I think it makes sense, and many others are too. So it's not just about us, but you do have gateway organisations where that's their area of expertise, and that's core to what they do. So it's a fantastic opportunity to streamline the access and engagement with Kickstart, but at the same time access really high quality wraparound support for those young people, so that the employers don't find themselves overstretching or straying into an area that they're not necessarily comfortable with, that jeopardizes the opportunity for the young person to get high quality support. So I suppose that the message that I'd always give is to really think carefully about that employability support, because it's one of the areas where, as an employer, when you're in that application phase, you'd look at it and say, well, you know, what, as Maureen said, what does good look like? What's the best opportunity for that young person? And that's how we always come at it. How will the young person get the best chance throughout and at the end of their Kickstart journey?
Thank you, Alex. And I think we have to bear in mind that we're trying to give an opportunity to a young person to start their career, to start their position in the workplace, not simply just to fill a gap in our organisation or do something. And I think, Maureen, you were making those points. It's not there to kind of fill kind of roles that we're already doing. It's trying to create new opportunities, but we need to do that in a fair way to our young people. There's a couple of questions that have come through, so I'm going to perhaps ask one first of all that's coming from an organisation at a very early stage, so themselves quite a new organisation. Is this a programme you think that very early stage organisations can fit into, or do you think, and I'm thinking almost kind of just past that new start stage to enable them to grow a business, or do you think organisations need to be a wee bit more established to be able to take on the employment opportunities and link in with any of these programmes? Maureen?
Yeah.
I'll bring you in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they meet the requirements of being a Kickstart employer in terms of all the fiscal checks can get done and they can get around that side of the process, and they can offer an additional job within their organisation, then I don't see any reason why not.
Thank you. Alex?
Our understanding of things so far is to be able to get through those, it's, you know, being trading for a year or more is really important. So for a very new enterprise, that obviously is potentially a challenge. But you know, there'll still be organisations out there that are fairly young but still have that. You know, they've traded for a year.
Yeah, I guess it's about having the capacity to do the support. Come back to that point about this is about creating an opportunity for a young person, not simply an opportunity for an organisation to grow its workforce. It's got to have the young person at its focus. Victoria?
And maybe if not quite ready to do a Kickstart programme, it's thinking about what other opportunities and that you could provide to young people. Could you, for example, provide work experience opportunities, or go in and speak to a school and give kind of careers advice in that area and link in with the school? So it isn't always just, although we want young people to get into work and have those jobs, there are other opportunities employers can provide. So maybe it's stepping stones towards that. So getting in touch with your developing young workforce regional group to think about what opportunities you could offer.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. I'm conscious we're slightly over, but I've got 2 more quick questions, if you're all right, just to stay on and answer those. So a couple of practical questions in relation to Kickstart that you might have seen come through the chat, Maureen. So hopefully you've been pre-warned. What do DWP anticipate as being the turnaround time on direct employer applications from the 3rd of February?
Probably can't give a direct answer to that one, I'm afraid. I mean, they have put a week in between the closing for the gateway organisations and employers being able to apply. Honestly, at the moment, it's how long is it as a piece of string. All I know is that this is such high priority within DWP, and then you'll have seen that from the Secretary of State being on the news and everything yesterday, that they've thrown so much resource at it to make sure that we can work at pace on this. And it is I've never seen anything in all the many years that I have been with DWP take up so much resource nationally as well, and for them to have within each individual district people with their own teams dealing with this too. So I'm sorry, I probably can't, I probably sound like Boris Johnson where I can't give you a direct answer. I'm really sorry.
It's hard, isn't it? Because I guess until you know how many applications come in, it's very difficult to know what you're dealing with. But I appreciate you having a bash at answering the question. I don't want to feel like I can never say her surname, but Laura from the BBC suddenly asking difficult questions. My role's to get information out of you, not to put you on the spot too much. Just a question that's just come in about young person's guarantee. Can it top up the Kickstart for employers who are living wage employers? So obviously, I think there's a lot of talk about minimum wage within the social enterprise sector. We talk quite a lot about living wage. So is that top up available?
Yep, so that's part of the wraparound. We've not been prescriptive as to what that wraparound could be. So it could well be that you're wanting to pay the living wage, and that's what we would say, get in touch with your local authority and have that discussion as to whether or not they could come into partnership with you on that.
Thank you. No, that's helpful. So I'll put the call out if there's any last questions. I'm aware there was lots of information to take in today's webinar. So I suspect more of the questions will come once you've revisited the slides, and we will share the recording from this. But maybe if there's just any final comments from our panelists for today, just Alex, I guess what would be the top thing you to say to people looking at trying to provide placements and providing support?
I suppose first and foremost, and this goes beyond Kickstart, but looking more generally around the need to provide as many opportunities as we can for people to get back into work across Scotland and the UK, is looking at your organisations and seeing how they can maximise the opportunities that are being presented to you through the investment that the Scottish and UK government are putting towards employment support. And then there's a concerted effort that's going on right now and will grow significantly with new programs that will support and hold people's hands back towards reskilling and then the world of work. That will only, as I said in my talk, that will only be successful if employers take action, if they look at how they can get involved in Kickstart, in the Young Person's Guarantee, supporting JETS, Fair Start Scotland, and all these other programs And I appreciate that that can be confusing, and one of the roles we must play, and that's why I think sessions like this are really important, is we try and understand the context and try and simplify this for the people who we're trying to help. So how we can get them the best help in the best place, in the best way possible. So that, I suppose the call to action is, is really on employers and across different sectors. But I suppose today, the social enterprise sector, who I know will be mobilised, being a social enterprise ourselves, we are mobilised and we want to do the right thing to support as many people as possible. So look at your organisation and understand how you could get involved and engage with these programmes, engage with the DWP, with the Scottish Government, with your local authority, people like us, because there's loads of ways to help at the moment.
Thank you, Alex. I always say when we've got funders on, my top tips always read the FAQs and the information that's provided, and I suspect that would come through if you're applying on any of the programmes that Maureen and Victoria have spoken about. Are there any just quick tips or points that you just want to perhaps really highlight as we draw the session to a close? I'll come to Victoria first and then Maureen just to finish off.
Just to say that we are trying to work really hard to hide some of that hard wiring to make it easier for employers to be able to access support and access the young people. So a lot of the work now that we're starting to get these schemes up and running is to simplify and make things as easy as possible. So please bear with us as we're trying to do that, and happy to take feedback.
Thank you very much, Victoria. And finally, just to Maureen.
Yeah, I just popped something in the conversation panel there when Alex mentioned Fair Start Scotland, just to say that anyone participating on the Fair Start Scotland scheme can also access Kickstart Scotland vacancies as well. And I'm happy for you to share my email address too, if anybody does have any questions and want to come to me. That would be an issue.
Thank you very much. I guess it comes to me to just say a big thank you to all of our panellists today. That was an incredibly informative session. Really appreciate your time, both in presenting and getting the slides together for us today, which we will share. So thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.